is all about believing in your employees, about building them up, encouraging them, motivating them, stimulating them to go beyond their own beliefs and their own expectations. Okay? Participative leadership, again, one of House's behaviors. Participative leadership. Do you remember a little bit about it? What's the spectrum? From what end to what end?
Employees.
From what end to what end?
Well, employee and boss and.
Exactly. Go completely employee-centric all the way to boss-centric. So, Baum and Schmidt, very good. Right? If you look at the continuum, there are many different stages. What is the extreme employee-centric? What do you do? What would a manager do?
You let them decide. They decide their decisions related to the work.
They make all the decisions within a pre-existing framework or parameters. So they have a particular structure, particular objectives, a budget, a timeline, for example, and everything they do within that context is their decision. To the other extreme, where it's completely boss-centric, which happens, what happens at that point?
Makes all the
Yeah, the boss, he or she, makes all the decisions on everything, will see minimal input, but makes all the decisions, assigns all the work, and ensures that all things progress according to a prescribed approach. Okay? Transactional leadership. Ooh, yes. Yeah, employee-centric is where the manager gives the employees or the team the authority to make all the decisions within a pre-approved or pre-existing set of parameters. It's not carte blanche. It's not spend all the money you want, take all the time you want. It's usually structured. There's an objective, there's a timeline, there's a budget, there are specific decisions that are left to the team, and they have full control of how they solve whatever the problem is. Okay?
Should we get like potential advantages and problems as well, like to participate?
Give an example. Just give it. What would be an example of an advantage? What would be an advantage? What would be an advantage?
Will they feel more involved?
Motivation.
Motivation, right? When you lead back to the job characteristics model, one of the components is
Task.
the last one, second to last one.
Task identity.
Yeah.
Significance.
Autonomy. Task identity could be part and autonomy. So you're enriching the scope of the job, you're improving job scope by giving people more say in what they do. So it has the potential for increasing motivation. So you can link that back, yes. Okay? Transactional leadership. What does a transactional leader do?
Hires employees.
Hires.
Sets people for their job.
Puts people in their jobs. Transacts. Pays for programs, ensures budgets are controlled, does the day-to-day operational management, ensures that if the company produces these things, that these things are produced, ensures that the right people are in the right jobs, the right number of resources are available to achieve the organizational objectives. Very important. You have to have those leaders. Now, what's a transformational leader? One who is charismatic, one of the characteristics is charisma, but what is a transformational leader?
And influences change for the future of the organization.
Okay, so envisions the change, okay, creates a vision for the organization, creates long-term objectives for the organization, gives you something to aspire to, makes you feel like what you're doing is the most important thing in the world, okay? Doesn't worry about the here and now only, but thinks certainly about the long term. So it inspires, motivates. One of the characteristics is a leader or an individual with charisma who draws people in to his or her vision. What else? What is another characteristic of a transformational leader? Some of the characteristics, what are they? We said charisma. What's another one? Develops employees, okay. Intellectual stimulation, right? So we develop them through intellectual stimulation. We challenges employees so that they develop. What else? Individualized consideration, right? Makes each person feel like they're the most important person in the organization. Has the ability to adapt his or her approach to individual members of his or her team. What's another one? We got three. One more.
Inspirational motivation.
inspirational motivation. So we don't just motivate by rah, 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 by encouraging people to go beyond, but it inspires, gets people to think of the greater objective or the greater good that the organization stands for. Okay? We're good? Comfortable with the difference? Is it better to be one or the other?
Yeah, both.
Right. A transformational leader is also transactional. Right? They have to be good at both. They've got to do the day-to-day. You have to produce these things or your company doesn't make any money. And they can't succeed in their industry. So you have to be able to do the transactional as well as transformational in order to be considered a transformational leader. We're good? Good. Decision making, second to last chapter. No, third to last chapter. Decision making. Well-structured problem, ill-structured problem.
Everything is clear and no.
Well-structured is
Everything is clear.
everything's clear. Current situation,
With
solution, and how to get there. Right? All clear. Ill-structured problem, the current situation,
It never happened before.
not clear. The path is unclear, and the goal is not necessarily known. Okay? So those are the decisions we have. We only deal in what? Ill-structured problems. Well-structured problems can be
Program.
programmed, automated. We don't need to worry about those. We figure it out. The solution is repeatable. So we can predict. We can say, when this happens, we program the solution, and the machine or the automated system will resolve it. We only deal, well, that's what concerns us, is ill-structured problems. The perfectly rational decision maker is one who values what? Maximization. And the economic person wants economic gain. So it's all about maximizing, not optimizing. We want maximum. We know everything. The perfectly rational person, decision maker, has what? Access to information, right? For free, immediately. So there's no time committed, no cost committed, and no information left unknown. They have access to everything. Does the perfectly rational decision maker exist?
No.
Very good. All right. So, bounded rationality. What does that mean?
It's bounded by time constraints.
Bounded by time constraints.
Information.
Financial, political, time, resource, information. We acknowledge that if we wait long enough, we'll get a lot more information. But the reality is sometimes you don't have that much time to collect all the information. So you limit yourself. What are the three aspects of decisions made under bounded rationality? Framing, cognitive biases that impact bounded rationality, and satisficing. Okay? So we frame it, we give it a context, we have biases, we have preconceived notions, and then we set our minimal accepted standard, our satisfactory standard. That's how we make our decision. So we come in with a context, we give ourselves an objective, a series of things to check off our list, and when we find them, we stop looking. We have found our solution. Okay? So, right there, framing, cognitive biases on the decision process. The way you frame a problem, the way you set the context will limit, if I tell you to look for the solution somewhere on this screen, that is my frame. You will not look on the board, right? By framing it a certain way will lead to a certain predetermined set of outcomes. So making sure you have the right frame will ensure that you're looking in the right place. Cognitive bias is your preconceived notion. If you believe North American cars are the best when you go car shopping, you will only search North American cars. Okay, so you have a particular bias or a preconceived notion. So what you have as a preconceived notion will limit the scope of your search when you're looking for this information. Okay? In order to make or simplify the decision-making process. Are we clear on those two elements? Yeah? And satisficing is we look for something that meets a minimum level of satisfaction. Once you exceed that, decision-making, and you move on. You don't keep searching because you'll be searching forever trying to find something that may not be out there. All right? What is escalation of commitment? Escalation of commitment. One line tagline, what is it? Committing,
Since you already started, it's bad, but you continue to put resources in it.
right. Throwing good resources after bad, or continuing to invest in a apparently failing course of action. So you're not working, what you are doing is not generating what you thought it would, and you continue to invest in that same project. So you're throwing good money after bad, throwing good resources after bad. Okay? The problem with escalation of commitment is that decisions are based on, what are those previous costs called?
Some cost.
Sunk costs, right? Exactly. So you're making decisions based on sunk costs, which will never be recouped, so they should never factor into the decision-making equation. Are we clear?
Yes.
You sure? If you're not, just say no. Okay, I'll repeat it.
Yes, please.
2 honest people in the class. Good job, guys. Okay. If you make decisions about the future on money that was spent in the past, you are likely, if the money spent in the past did not generate anything, we're going to continue to spend good money, new money, in a course of action that has not generated anything. So if we base it on sunk costs, we are making a mistake in how we allocate those resources. Okay? So if you base it on the past will never be recouped. That money is gone. What we're deciding today is, do we spend 100,000? It's not about making up for the million that was spent. Forget that million, it's gone. Now, what we do have in our hands is $100,000. Do we spend it? Now, if we spend it on the same thing we just spent $1 million on, and this $1 million has given us nothing, is it a wise use of 100,000? Probably not. You've had so many months and so many resources, and yet you've done nothing. But you escalate your commitment because you want to appear responsible. You don't want to appear foolish and wasteful. You don't want someone to say, oh my God, you wasted $1 million. 100,000 more, and all of a sudden the project will materialize. Therefore, I was not wasteful. The $1 million was well invested. Montreal's Olympic Stadium is a perfect example of escalation of commitment. Right? $1 billion stadium built in 1973. Okay? Yes, we have $1 billion stadiums today. We shouldn't have $1 billion stadium built in the 70s. Okay, we continue to put money in, and the building is still lopsided and there's problems and the roof leaks and you want to change the roof again. Okay, that's an escalation of commitment. At some point, sometime in 1980, whatever, there should have been a decision made to say, enough. And they would have probably saved $500 million. Okay? Mood's good, bad? Decision making. You're in a good mood. What kind of decisions do you make?
Positive.
Oh, how about
Risky.
what? Risky, a bit riskier. Rash, maybe, in a hurry. What else? Creative, right? So if you're looking for a creative solution, out of the box thinking, having people in a good mood is a good thing. You're in a bad mood, what kind of decisions do you make?
More conservative.
Very conservative. You're a little bit cynical. You're more careful. You ask more questions. You don't believe the information up front. So you're a bit more conservative in your decision-making process. So sometimes it's good, right? But not always. If you need more creative solutions, then you want someone in a positive mood. Quickly, pros and cons of using groups to make decisions.
Having donation skills.
You disperse or you share responsibility. So there's a dissipation of responsibility. Better quality. Why are decisions better? 2 heads are better than 1. Good. More creative. Greater commitment. If you come up with a solution and you're the ones to implement, chances are you'll be more committed to the solution or the idea that you came up with. Okay? Good. Cons. What is a con? What is groupthink?
Too many opinions. It's unanimous.
What is groupthink?
You share the blame with someone
Oh, like
Like,
Is it like
like people agree just because everyone else is?
yes. Okay? When people agree, right, a sense of unanimity, a semblance of unanimous decision. People don't want to look like they stand out. They don't want to be the ones to, slow down the whole process. So they agree because certain people within the group, people of power and influence, take a perspective. Everyone wants to gravitate in that direction. Okay, there's a tendency for people to gravitate to a hasty decision, a quick decision. Groupthink. What else? What else about groupthink?
They tend to jump to conclusions to achieve harmony.
Bingo, you tend to jump to conclusions in order to preserve and achieve and preserve harmony. Very good. How do you overcome groupthink? Bring in an outsider. Possibly an arbitrator. Leaders can have certain rules where leaders can't exert too much pressure. You may want to rotate leaders as well of the group. What else can you do? Encourage dissent. Encourage people to see the other side of whatever you're debating. You may even want to appoint somebody as the devil's advocate. You may have a designated person whose job it is to poke holes in the solution that the group comes up with, to force the group to think about the situation differently. We're good? Groupthink, you're comfortable with it? Yes?
We need to know the symptoms of groupthink, or
Give me one.
rationalization.
Okay, which is? Which is?
You rationalize
It's
it.
problems encountered, or arguments that members cannot ignore or rationalize away.
Right? Exactly. Okay, we'll do this, and this will lead to this market share. What if the competition gets there first? Oh, by now, they would have leaked out some information about their R&D, so that's totally impossible that it's going to happen. We all agree that it can't make any sense that they will do it, so we're on the right course of action. Something that is probable, likely, possible, we quickly dismiss through rationalization. Understand, what's another one?
Self-censorship.
What is self-censorship? Stop yourself from saying what you actually think. Where you don't have to worry about telling people to be quiet, people voluntarily hold back in order not to stand out. So yes, you should know the various facets or those dimensions that identify groupthink. Okay? Risk assessment. Risk assessment. If you have a group that makes a decision, blame can be dispersed between the group. You can't fire the entire group. Okay, so from a risk perspective, we have shifts towards risky or less risky movements. What dictates a risky shift? Groups will tend to go further in the direction that they already have as an individual. So if I'm a risk taker as an individual, when I'm in a group, I will be a greater risk taker. When I am very conservative as an individual and I join a group, I become even more conservative in the group. So depending on the number of people with risky or conservative tendencies, will tend to shift the group one way or the other. If we are 5 people, 4 of us are risk takers, 1 is not. 1 will try to pull towards conservative, the 4 of us will really push towards a much riskier decision. Okay? So knowing who to put into a group is important to ensure that there's a balance in the group so you don't get these risky shifts or overly conservative shifts. Okay? Good? Comfortable? Yes?
Can you explain the risk assessment, just like what the...
When you put a group of people together, make sure that you understand there's risk associated with groups making decisions. Okay? If you put risky people together, risk takers together, you're going to have an extremely risky decision being made because they're going to pump each other up and they're going to become even more risky as a group than they were as individuals. Okay? If you find people that are very conservative all working together, they're going to come up with an even more conservative solution than they would have come up with on their own as individuals. That's all we're talking about. So assessing risk is assessing the level of solution that a group can generate. You have to know that your group will generate one that is more, will polarize one way or the other. Ethics, okay? What are ethical dilemmas managers face? Give me an example.
Sexual harassment.
Sexual harassment, what else? Bribery,
Bullying.
bullying,
Conflict of interest.
conflict of interest. It's not ethical, no.
Receiving gifts.
Receiving gifts,
Bribery.
bribery, you said that already, good.
Giving gifts,
Nepotism, pardon?
giving gifts,
Giving gifts, right? So through bribery or favors, right? Nepotism, hiring family members. Whistleblowing, right? To call out the unethical behavior. What is whistleblowing?
Calling out the unethical behavior if done already.
Yeah, so calling out that unethical behavior, internal or external sources, but to a source that you feel can make a difference, can potentially fix or bring this to light. You don't just tell anybody. You tell someone who you think can make it better. Okay? Whistleblowing means you have to send it to the right person. So it's not unethical. It's the way to call out unethical behavior. It's not an ethical dilemma. Managers are faced with having to decide whether or not to blow the whistle, but it's not an ethical dilemma. Okay? It's, do I hire my cousin over this other candidate? Right? Those are some of the ethical dilemmas that a lot of managers face. Bribery, so on. Yes, exactly. You mentioned them all. Okay? You've read from your book, know a few of them. What should organizations do to prevent sexual harassment? Policies, clear policies, clear consequences. Management has to be committed to the idea that we want to eradicate sexual harassment from the workplace. What else? Consequences? Yes, staying vigilant, right? Don't just, what is this called? The famous, the deaf ear syndrome, blah, blah, the three monkeys, right? No, hear no evil, see no evil, right? No, it never happens here. Not in my company, right? Oh my God, I work for a very ethical company, it could never happen here. No, stay vigilant, look for it. If there's a sign, act immediately. Okay? Guidelines, policies, employees have to sign off on them. There needs to be a procedure, immediate action. Okay? Many things organizations can do to ensure that the harassment is dealt with immediately and does not reproduce. We're good? And our final chapter, we're doing okay, good. Conflict. What causes conflict? Why do people get into conflict? Interpersonal differences.
Disagreements that they get
Disagreements.
do against stuff.
Okay. What else? From your notes. Look at your notes.
Different status,
Difference of opinion.
Status,
culture, and
different culture, value sometimes, ambiguity, scarce resources. Okay? So there are specific reasons interpersonal conflict can come about. And sometimes it's simply interpersonal personality. Okay? Sometimes the conflict is interpersonal. How do you manage conflict? 5 modes. If you are high on competing, low, I gave it away. So competing is defined as what? Competing is high interest in
winning,
yourself, your own,
winning your own success,
okay? Think of it as axes. Okay? Your own needs, needs of others. Competing is more assertive of your own needs, less interested in the needs of others, less interested in helping the other person achieve their objectives. So if you're high on your personal assertiveness, low on collaboration, low on work cooperation, even cooperation, these are all words that we're going to look for. Okay? Low achieving the needs of others, you'd be competing. What if you're low on both? Low on your own, not interested in your own, not interested in the other. Avoiding. High on the other person achieving their goals, low on your own
cooperative,
getting goals.
collaboration,
Accommodating. You accommodate. If you're not necessarily interested in any kind of affirming your own position, or you're interested in helping the other person achieve their objectives, you're accommodating. If you are high on both, yours and theirs, collaborating, which is the hardest but best. Okay? And if you're somewhere in the middle, you dilute.
Compromise.
Compromise. There's no convincing. No, compromise is you're unsatisfied, they're unsatisfied, but you can both live with it. You should just know the 5. Just know the 5. Okay? People to identify what they are that you just did. If I were to ask you what is the conflict resolution model or mode characterized by, you should be able to identify one of the 5. Okay? I'm not going to ask you to write an essay on it. Okay? Stressors, stress and stress reactions, in that order. Give me an example of a stressor.
Work environment.
High temperature, cold weather, too much work, noise. Okay? A stressor causes stress, which is defined as, what is it? Psychological. It's a psychological feeling, right? Right, psychological feeling. The stress is a sense of being overwhelmed. Okay, overwhelming feeling, psychological discomfort, if you will. Okay, it's a reaction. You form a reaction to the stressor that causes the feeling of stress, the feeling of psychological distress, which is then manifested in a stress reaction, such as
Burnout.
burnout could be. No, stress reaction.
Withdrawal.
What is a stress reaction? There are three kinds. There's elevated blood pressure is an example of physiological.
Psychological and behavioral.
Psychological would be burnout, would be an example. And then there's behavior. What's an example of behavioral reaction? Violence, withdrawal, substance abuse. Okay, these are all behavioral adaptations. Now some, if you address the stress, you have short-term relief, right? If your coping mechanism is going to get a massage, you deal with the stress. You're not dealing with the stressor. Okay? So a coping mechanism that allows you to take the stress reaction and address the stressor will have greater success in getting rid of the stress than simply dealing with the symptoms. Alright? So please, yes?
Can you give an example of the psychological event?
Burnout.
Psychological
Yeah.
reaction, burnout,
Okay.
depression, where you are completely disengaged.
And it happens all in here, right?
It all happens inside your head. It's something that you don't see physically necessarily, but it happens in your head. Now, sometimes that feeling can go so far as to manifest itself physiologically, diminishing your immune system, right, making you susceptible to other illnesses. It can have an impact on cardiovascular health, which is very significant. Higher heart rate, higher blood pressure. Physiological. There's no physical. There's physiological, which includes physical, psychological, and behavioral reactions to stress. Okay? We're good?
Did you do the role personality between
Sorry?
Did you do the part about the role? Or not yet?
Personality. Which kind of people are more susceptible to stress?
External locus control.
People have an external locus of control. Yes. Who else? Type A personalities.
Negative affect.
People with negative affectivity. Right? What else? Why is that? They just can't handle stress?
Because they
Females.
go towards it. They go towards
They
it.
tend to gravitate towards it. They tend to perceive it. It's what they know. Okay? Of all the personality dimensions, the 5, neurotic will tend to exhibit more, have a negative impact from stress. Right? People with emotional stability tend to either deal with the stress better or not even perceive it as not even perceive the stressor to be what it is. Okay? Stress is always a perception of the stressor. It's the interpretation of the stressor that leads to it. Okay? So good. External locus of control, type A personalities, people with negative affectivity. Last thing we do, sources of stress encountered by various organizational members. People at the top, what kind of stress do they encounter?
Executive.
Executive and managerial. What are the two aspects that we look at for them?
Role overload.
Role overload
Heavy responsibility.
and heavy responsibility. Decisions they make impact a lot of people. Role overload, they do a lot of stuff in their day. You have people down below that actually do the work, in the trenches, doing the work. What is that level? What's that called? Operative level, exactly. What are the two things that we most often see with operative level stressors?
Poor job design and condition.
Poor job design and
Condition.
poor working conditions, right? Usually boring, monotonous work in dangerous, hostile environments. Okay, a combination of both. Then you have people that straddle that imaginary line. Boundary role stressors, such as people in customer service roles.
Emotional, have to suppress
They have to, emotional labor, because they have to repress or suppress their true feelings in order to display, using the display rules, they have to display a particular image on behalf of an organization. They cannot truly express how they feel in a given context. Okay, so boundary. And then there are stressors that everybody feels, known as general stressors. Give me an example. Work-family conflict. Interpersonal conflict, interpersonal stress.
procedure.
Conflict.
What are some of the stressors that are general stressors?
The procedure, the work conflict, no? No.
Peer pressure.
Isn't it like a conflict within the work you're doing?
Interpersonal conflict could exist, yes. What are some of the general stressors though? We talked about, there's one specific, there's a few, there's 6 of them actually. Role ambiguity.
Oh, change. Change in safety.
Change, right? And job security or job insecurity. Anybody can face that. Okay, so the easiest ones are work-life balance are usually the ones that come up most often. Okay? Any questions? We already talked about this, behavioral, psychological, physiological reactions to stress, and you should know the techniques. So job redesign, right, for people in operative level jobs, where the job design is a problem, right, back to the job enrichment, seen through the job characteristics model, which you should know. Family-friendly HR policies, where policies take into consideration the general stressor of the work-family conflict. Stress management programs, organizations can put those forward to help people learn to manage their stress better. Okay? Courses in time management, priority management, dealing with stressful situations. Okay? Work-life balance, simple, sounds simple enough. Work-life balance systems that organizations can put in place can include a daycare on site, providing services to employees that will take time, that save time at home. Okay? Fitness, wellness programs, right? Cardiovascular training, biofeedback mechanisms, relaxation meditation. Bless you. Good? Okay, listen folks, I wish we had more time together because I really enjoyed having you in my class this term. Somebody turn off the camera, I think we're good. We can turn off the camera. We're good?
I have no idea.